The Buddha said, all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. When one sees this with insight and wisdom, one turns away from suffering and dissatisfaction in life. So from today's video, let's talk about the three signatas of life. Three signatas, or in Pali we call it Tilakkhaṇa, is one of the fundamental teachings of Buddhism. The Buddha taught us that these three signatas are the fundamental nature of everything around you and everything within you, right? Everything within you and everything around you carries these three natures of life. So what are these three natures? The first one is Anicca. The Buddha said, the life is impermanent. Everything around you, everything within you is subject to impermanence, right? So Anicca means impermanence. Then the second sign, the second signata of life is Dukkha. Dukkha can be translated into English as suffering. It is the most common translation. And also it gives the meaning of dissatisfaction of life. Okay? So the second sign, the second nature of life is that it is suffering and dissatisfaction. And the third is called Anatta. Anatta can be translated into English as not self, right? So these are the three signs of everything around you and everything within you. So how can we understand this teaching of the Buddha? So first we'll take a look at Anicca. What do you mean by Anicca? The translation is impermanence. How can we understand impermanence? So there are these levels of Anicca or levels of impermanence that we can understand. Okay, the first is the most peripheral and the most superficial impermanence of life, right? That everyone can understand. For an example, like seasons change, right? It is an impermanence. And sometimes these rivers, they dry up, right? It is an impermanence. These buildings collapse, right? It is an impermanence. Your car breaks down, your laptop stops working. This is more peripheral and more superficial, and everyone can understand this kind of impermanence in life. And there is this second level of impermanence that is more subjective to you, right? Your body starts aging, okay? Your body is under constant change, right? It is aging. That is an impermanence. And then your body is subject to illness or sickness, right? All of a sudden you fall ill. One time you was healthy and you become ill. That is also an impermanence. And then sometimes people change, their mindsets change, their personalities change. This is something that is more subjective to you. It is very closer to your life, right? And there is this more subtler and very subtle way of impermanence that lies within all of our lives. For an example, who you are, okay, what you call yourself is a bunch of experiences, right? You perceive this world and you connect to this world, you get connected to this world through these perceptions, right? These experiences, you see the things from your eyes, you listen to things from your ears, you smell things, you taste things, you feel things to your body, you think from your mind. So all these experiences are under constant change. Just take a look at your life, right? Now, if I ask from you, what happened to all the words that you heard from this video, in the beginning of this video? What happened to them now? They have been changed now. They have become impermanent. So in life, all these experiences, right? And all these perceptions how we perceive this world, all these experiences that we get connected with this world are under constant change. They have this transient nature. Okay? So that is the very subtler and the most deepest impermanence in life, right? So what happens, how this becomes impermanent? The Buddha said, why this becomes impermanence is because everything is conditioned. Everything arises due to conditions. For an example, when we see things, right, there should be certain conditions to see for us, for our vision, right? When we hear things, there are certain conditions that occur within us, right? For an example, if someone blamed us, okay, in a faraway place, from a faraway place, let's say in another country, someone is blaming us, right? Do we get angry? We don't get angry, right? Because we didn't hear it. Now, when we hear this, okay, as soon as we hear this, now we become angry. So there are certain conditions that they need to come together for our perceptions and for our experiences in this world. So the nature of these conditions is that they are also under constant change. Okay? When the conditions change, our experiences change. That means who you are is under constant change, which we call anicca. Okay? So that is the way that we can understand the impermanence. Now, to understand this subtler impermanence, okay, this deepest impermanence, everyone cannot understand this. This need the meditational development, a developed mind, well-disciplined mind to do that. That is why we practice this insight meditation. Okay, so this is the anicca that Buddha talked about. Okay, this is the impermanent. That is the first sign of life, that everything around you, everything within you is under constant change. That is the first thing. Now, if I ask from you, if someone expect the permanence from these impermanent things, right? If someone expect things to be permanent, experiences to be permanent, when the very nature of everything is impermanent, what happens to that person? Would that person get what they expect, what he expect? No, right? And what happens to you when you don't get what you expect? You are dissatisfied, right? And you suffer. And that is what you call the second signata of life, the second nature of life. That is, life is subject to suffering. Life consists of dissatisfaction, okay? Because we expect things to be permanent, our experiences to be permanent, when the very nature of everything, every experience within us is impermanence. Okay, I heard this wonderful quote from a famous monk. He said, impermanence doesn't make us suffer. What makes us suffer is wanting things to be permanent when the very nature of things are impermanent. Okay, so the second signata of life is the dukkha, the dissatisfaction. Why dukkha? Because things are impermanent and we expect things to be permanent, right? Letting go of these expectations to be permanent is what you call the realization, the liberation, right? Expecting things to be permanent when the things are impermanent is called the ignorance in life. Okay, so the second signata is that life is unsatisfactory, right? Everything around you cannot satisfy you to the fullest extent, right? For an example, we love every experience to be permanent, and we think that every experience is permanent. For an example, let's say when you have a happy feeling, okay, let's say you have a happy and a pleasurable feeling. What you expect what you expect from that experience? We expect, okay, I wish this experience will last forever with me. It will stay with me forever. But it isn't, right? How many happy experiences have you gone through? And now they're gone. They cease to exist. That is the nature of life. Okay? Let's say we are going through a difficult experience, painful experience. What we think? We think, okay, this pain will last forever. I will have to suffer forever. But the very nature of life is that it is also under constant change. Okay? So this is what we need to understand. Okay? So the second signata of life is called dukkha. And what is the third signata? The third sign of life? It is called anatta. Anatta is, in English we call it not self. Right? The Buddha said, if something is impermanent, okay, if something is, if the life itself, if the life around you, if the life within you is under constant change, can you expect any unchangeable and permanent self even within you? No. Okay. So anatta means no permanent self, right? Even our consciousness changes according to our perceptions. That is the nature of life. So even the consciousness change, right? If even the consciousness conditioned, right? Then we can't expect any self to be permanent. Okay, this is called anatta. Okay, the not self nature of life. The perfect example for life is the flame. For an example, let's say we light up a candle and there you can see a flame, right? Now, you can point out and show the flame, and we see the flame as an object. It appears to be like an object. But if you take a closer look at this flame, the nature of flame is that it is not one permanent thing, one unchanging thing. It is under constant change. It is a process, right? It is the process of combustion, right? If it wasn't, the flame always depend on the conditions. When the conditions are there, the flame exists. When the conditions are not there, the flame ceases to exist. For an example, let's say can you remove the flame from the candle? You can't. Why? Because the flame entirely depends on that condition, the wick, the wax, the heat and everything. Okay, so our life is always a collection of conditions. Okay, when the conditions are there, the experiences arise. When the conditions become impermanent, the experiences change. This is the very nature of life. So these are the three signatas of everything around you. Look around you, right? Everything, that objects, things, people, right? Your experiences, your body, everything has this very nature. So the Buddha said, if someone understood with developed wisdom, right? If someone understood this very nature of life, he turns away from suffering because he doesn't expect things to be permanent, because he knows that everything around him and everything within him is impermanent. So I hope you got some light about these three signatas of life. So I wish you, may you be healthy and may you be happy and may you be able to realize these three signatas of life in this life. Namo Buddhaya.